Have you ever wondered how someone kind, ethical, and compassionate can slowly become cruel? Not overnight, not suddenly, but step by step, until they become someone unrecognizable. History is full of examples like this. Ordinary people, normal lives, yet somehow, under certain conditions, they participated in acts they once believed they were incapable of. This raises one of the most disturbing questions about human nature. Why do good people sometimes do terrible things? The uncomfortable truth is this: evil doesn't always come from evil intentions. Often, it emerges from normal people placed in abnormal situations. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo called this phenomenon the Lucifer effect, the idea that environment, roles, and authority can pull even decent individuals toward darkness. It's not about monsters, it's about systems. Throughout history, people who were once loving parents, loyal friends, and moral citizens committed acts of violence or cruelty, not because they were born that way, but because circumstances reshaped their behavior. And the most unsettling part? This isn't a rare anomaly, it's a repeating pattern. Which forces are strong enough to override conscience? What pushes someone to cross a moral line they once swore they never would? To answer that, we need to look at the psychological mechanisms that quietly guide human behavior, often without us realizing it, because the same forces that changed them still exist today.
One of the strongest forces shaping human behavior is authority. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram conducted obedience experiments that revealed a disturbing truth. People are willing to harm others when instructed by someone in a position of power. Participants believed they were delivering painful electric shocks to another person. They heard screams, they saw distress, yet most continued simply because an authority figure told them to proceed, not because they were cruel, but because they believed responsibility no longer belonged to them. Now ask yourself, how often do we follow instructions without questioning them? From bosses, from institutions, from social norms? Authority doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it only needs legitimacy. Another powerful force is dehumanization. When people stop seeing others as individuals with emotions, fears, and dignity, it becomes easier to justify harm. History shows this clearly. Propaganda labels people as enemies, threats, or less than human. Once that label sticks, empathy fades. And this doesn't only happen in war, it happens in politics, online discourse, even everyday conflicts. Add social roles and group dynamics and the effect intensifies. In Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment, students randomly assigned as guards or prisoners quickly adopted their roles. Guards became abusive, prisoners became submissive. Within days, individuality disappeared. The lesson was clear. When people stop seeing themselves as individuals and start seeing themselves as roles, morality becomes flexible. So the question becomes, how much of who we are is truly chosen, and how much is shaped by the systems around us? Most people don't suddenly become immoral. They drift. It begins with small compromises, staying silent when something feels wrong, going along just this once, choosing comfort over courage. Each decision seems harmless on its own, but together they form a slippery slope. Psychologists call this process moral disengagement. It's how people rationalize harmful behavior without feeling guilty. Common justifications sound like, everyone else is doing it. I had no choice. The outcome matters more than the method. These mental shortcuts create distance between values and actions. Over time, the distance grows. This is where philosopher Carl Jung's concept of the shadow becomes relevant. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we prefer not to acknowledge: anger, envy, aggression, selfishness. Jung believed ignoring the shadow doesn't eliminate it, it strengthens it. When left unexamined, the shadow can take control, especially in environments that reward obedience, conformity, or emotional detachment. The hopeful truth is this: awareness changes everything. When people understand these psychological traps, they regain choice. But awareness alone isn't enough. To resist moral collapse, we need active defenses, habits and mindsets that anchor us when pressure rises.
One of the strongest defenses against moral failure is moral courage. Moral courage is the willingness to do what's right, even when it's uncomfortable, risky, or unpopular. It's not the absence of fear, it's action despite fear. Moral courage is built through practice, clarifying your core values, mentally rehearsing ethical dilemmas, surrounding yourself with people who reinforce integrity. Another essential defense is empathy. Empathy counteracts dehumanization. When we see others as complex human beings, not labels or roles, it becomes harder to justify harm. This is why stories matter, why art matters, why human connection matters. On a larger scale, leadership and culture play a critical role. Leaders can amplify fear in division, or courage in compassion. But influence isn't limited to positions of power. Every person shapes their environment through silence or speech, action or inaction. Even small choices matter. History proves this. Some individuals contributed to immense harm. Others, in the same conditions, chose to protect and help. The difference wasn't immunity, it was choice. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo referred to this mindset as the heroic imagination, the belief that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary moral action. Heroism isn't reserved for rare moments, it's practiced in small, daily decisions. And here is the most important realization of all. The line between good and evil doesn't run between nations, groups, or ideologies. It runs through every human heart. Each moment offers a choice to follow blindly or to question, to dehumanize or to empathize, to remain passive or to act with integrity. You will face moral crossroads. Everyone does. And when that moment comes, remember this: you are not powerless, you are not immune, but you are responsible. And that responsibility is where true strength begins.